Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and welcome to a Warhammer 40,000 Tactics video. Today we are talking Tau, specifically how to beat Tau. They are at the top of the meta, or near the top of the meta with Eldar, or at least they were. There might be some changes now, but they are one of the best armies and codices out there, and so I think it is time to deal with them. And this is my way of going about doing it. Shout out to Commissar Warwick. It was him who recommended that I do this video because he did a guard video for fighting Tau, and I made a comment on that, and he asked if I do a full one. So that's what this video is. Tau players, if you are watching, fear not. I am also going to do a Tau Tactica in the near future. So, beating Tau. Where do we start? We start in our army list. Where else do we start? And this might sound like list building. It's not list building. You can't build a list to tailor to an opponent. That is a dick move. Don't do it. But what you can do is take units that generally are good against a certain boss. If you know you're playing Tau, you can't say, right, I'm going to take these to kill his crisis team, these to kill his fire warriors, and these to kill his tanks. No, that's a little bit harsh. Especially if you played your opponent before, it's a bit of a dick move. Tournaments, that's different. But in just a general casual sense, I think this has to be the way to do it. Just think about units that Tau struggle with or you think you might need. So, what are Tau very good at? Shooting and maneuverability. Less actually with shooting. Their ballistic skill is awful, but they have marker lights and they have very powerful guns to negate this. So, what you need is a way to minimize their shooting, or at the very least make their shooting worse, and just try and lock down their maneuverability so that they can't just hop about and cause mayhem, particularly crisis suits and stealth suits, because they are evil. So, you need a good number of infantry that can take up some board control. Tau armies are generally quite small. Even if you go full fire warrior spam, you're still only going to get a maximum of 70 models out of your troop section. And that's going to set you back the best part of 600 plus 700 points. Whereas a guard army, just because that's my army, guard, Astra Militarum, can put that down in a one troop choice. So you can easily get very good board control. And if you take lots of units, you have a lot of board presence. You can take over a lot of areas and block them off. This also helps counter their maneuverability. Because if there's lots of units around and the opponent can't find a place to land, particularly if they're deep striking, they can't really move about and that limits them greatly. Plus shooting, if you have to divert a whole squad or two into killing a 20-man squad of guardsmen and there's still 100 more on the board, fine. I don't mind losing 20 guardsmen if I've got another 100 or so. So you've got to do that. You've got to get board control. Because if you let the Tau run the board, they'll run you over. Second thing is about stopping their shooting becoming so effective. And this might need a little bit of tailoring to kill Pathfinders. Pathfinders can die pretty easily. Because they are toughness 3 and they have a 5+ armor save, they don't get stealth or shrouded. So unless they get some really good cover saves, they die very easily. If you're anybody who packs an AP5 gun, so pretty much everybody who's not guard and Tyranids on their basic troops, so splinter weapons, bolt weapons, pulse weapons, I think shuriken weapons also work like that. Orcs don't work either. Big shooters, they mow Pathfinders down and you need them. This basically just means take troops, because your troops can kill Pathfinders, no problem. And because of a 5+ armor save, even if your weapons aren't AP5, you can still kill them pretty easily with weight of fire. They can only make so many saves. If they have a really good cover save, try and find some ignores cover or get up in their face. Outflanking flamers are brilliant at killing Pathfinders. Killing on 3s, ignoring cover. Brilliant. And you need to shut them down because they pack marker lights. And if you can take marker lights out of the equation, Tau shooting is ballistic skill 3 with not a lot of shots. That's not good enough. Trust me, BS3 with a lot of shots is not great. BS3 with not many shots, even if they're more powerful, if you're only getting a fire warrior squad shooting, you get 6 hits out of 12. Even against guardsmen, you're still only killing 5 guys when your squad's shooting, and that sucks. Against marines, you're causing 4 wounds. You're killing 1, 2 at best. What a waste. So you need to take out the buffs that buff BS and give ignores cover, because if you like to use cover saves, you need to kill marker lights quickly. So do that. Other thing Tau sort of struggle with, armor. Oddly enough, heavy armor is a problem Tau have. I don't mean Terminators, although they are good at this, because weight of fire still takes them down. I'm talking about heavily armoured tanks. So Defilers, who have a 5-up invul, armour 13, 4 hull points, and it will not die. Soul Grinders, same thing. Necron Monoliths, Land Raiders, Lehman Russes. Anything that's got a good armor value, by which I mean probably 14 to negate missile pods, but 13 isn't bad either. If you've got armor 13, use it, because beyond that, all the Tau have then is the railgun, the rail rifle, the heavy rail rifle, sorry, fusion, and some overcharged ion, and that's it. So you're definitely looking for that, and possibly the heavy burst cannon if you go Nova and get bending. But there's so few armor 14 killing weapons in the Tau army outside the fusion blaster that you can quite easily take those fusion blasters out. Piranhas die like that. They really do. Although they are very fast, they can jink. It might still not work. But if you jink, they're hitting on 6s, so it's a win-win. So heavily armored tanks are good. And if they've got blast weapons, great. If they've got tank hunting weapons, great. Anti-infantry you probably don't need. Most armies can bring a decent amount of anti-infantry. I mean, if it's a Lehman Russ Punisher, that's different. But a Land Raider Crusader versus a Land Raider Redeemer versus a regular Land Raider, I'd probably say regular Land Raider, unless you need the transport, in which case you go Crusader. Redeemer is too short-ranged and can get fusioned. Land Raider regular has lots of long-range weapons and a heavy bolter if you need it. So, heavy armor is good. And that's just your list. Then it comes to the mission, the game, the start of the game, deployment. So, I'm going to run this in probably 2 ways. One is if you get the corner deployment across ways, and one is if you get a long ways deployment. You might get that deployment as well, but most of the stuff that applies to pitch battle can also be applied to hammer and anvil, if that makes sense. So if you get Dawn of War, I think it's called, where you get the corners to deploy in. Apologies for all the hand signals, by the way. If you get the corner deployment, you need to make sure that you can get your units in range quickly. Anything with a 24-inch range is going to get outranged by a Fire Warrior. You need to get them up and you need to get them moving forward if you want to kill those Tau, because they can outrange you. Mark Lights have 36-inch range, Pulse Rifles have a 30-inch range. So you need to make sure you can get enough units on the board and get them up a bit. Tanks, depends on their range obviously. If it's a Land Raider, it can probably sit towards the back, but I would still present it front and centre to be a real threat, but make sure you cover it so you can get some cover saves off of it. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time when melters turn up. Then think about your elite units, your counters, your assault units perhaps if you run assault units, your heavy fire units such as Devastator Centurions or heavy weapon teams, weapon platforms, Dark Reapers, all that sort of thing need to be deployed sort of out of sight. If you can give them a cover save behind your frontline infantry, do it. If you can get them on a hill and still get them a cover save, do it. Of course, assault units up at the front but behind something. Screen them, otherwise they die. Shooting units need to be behind, but you also need to think about line of sight. You need good LOS. If you've got hills, use them. If you've got buildings, absolutely use them, because buildings 90% of the time will give you a cover save. And then it's just about eliminating the mark lights to make sure you can keep it. Any weak units need to be as far back as possible unless they are chaff units like conscripts. If it's things like Space Marine Scouts, back of the board. Dark Eldar Carbolites, well, ish. At least one goes to the back of the board. Guardians, back of the board. They are there to hold home and deal with any deep striking nonsense. Have you got 2 of them, like if it's a guard again, I might put an infantry platoon scattered around the back and basically say, if you deep strike here, you are going to mishap. That's what I'd do. I'd surround my home objective with chaff and say, get through that, sucker. If you deep strike in, I'll first rank fire your face and then I'll charge you. And then you won't get anywhere for the rest of the game and it's a waste of your time. And that's the mainstay of deployment. Just make sure you've got some rapid response to deal with their manoeuvrable units. So jetpack or jump pack, skimmers, flyers. If you've got flyers, make sure they're... Actually, you can't deploy flyers. What's the point? Flying monstrous creatures. If you have monstrous creatures, they're worse than tanks in this scenario. Monstrous creatures are worse than tanks, because monstrous creatures, in most cases, are wounded by Tau on 5s. In most cases. I mean, there's exceptions, the Wraith Knight, for example, but most Tyranny monstrous creatures, at least, are wounded on 5s by pulse weapons, and you will fail armor saves, especially if you haven't got a 2+. A 3+, you'll die pretty fast. I have to warn you. So make sure you can give out cover, feel no pain, invols, whatever. Give them out to your monstrous creatures so as they stay alive. Flying monstrous creatures less so, but still it helps. When it comes to the game itself, if you get first turn, take it. Take first turn. I know it sounds dumb to always want first turn because you might want the last move, but if you give Tau the initiative, they'll come and get you. They'll hang back, Fire Warriors will hit you, and their jumpy units and flying units will really get up in your face and cause you problems. Piranhas especially, if they can zip up and melt you, you've just lost your precious tank. So make sure that doesn't happen. So take first turn and concentrate on the fast units first. So stealth suits, crisis suits, piranhas, vespids, die. First up, gotta do it. Because then the Tau player has no way to take the game to you. He's playing a very reactive game after that. Then target Pathfinders. The sooner those marker lights die, the sodding better. I found out to my cost just how deadly they are. Take them out. I don't care what you have to throw at them. Even if you burn a Lehman Russ Punisher on it. If that's what needs to be done, do it. If you've got a way of first turn deep strike like Deathwing, absolutely great. Deep strike in with a heavy flamer. Woof. That squad of Pathfinders is gone. Dead on twos. Excellent. Brilliant. If they get first turn, try and seize, of course. But if they start getting up in your face, you have to very much think, what do I need to kill? You need to kill stealth suits because burst cannons absolutely wreck if you're not a space marine. You need to kill piranhas because melters kill you if you have anything even remotely looking like a tank. And you need to kill Pathfinders still. So still, focus on Pathfinders and make the piranha jink. I don't care if you don't kill it, that's not massively important. But make sure that it's jinking. If it's not jinking, then it can hit you at full BS, which could even be 3, 4 or 5, depending on the markers. So it needs to be at least jinking, because I don't think marker lights can affect snapshots. I may be wrong on that. I've given the codex back to Kieran. So force the opponent to react to what you're doing. If you can take the game to them, they have a very big problem of taking that initiative back without crisis suits coming in and causing mayhem. Because otherwise, you can easily get board control if you've got transports or just fast-moving infantry or just running moves even. They struggle to deal with your armor if you trundle it up, land raiders and monoliths especially. And they can really have a hard time of it. So make them react to you. That's my message. If you get to the end game, they don't have a load of troops. Generally, it's bare bones troops. 2 squads of fighters, maybe 3, or maybe 2 and a squad of recruits. That's it. So once you've dealt with the key units, i.e. Pathfinders, anti-tank units, fast units, focus on his troops. I know you might be tempting to kill that precious hammerhead, but don't. If you kill his fire warriors, he's got no objective secured left. And that way, he is forced then to commit units to objective grabs that he wouldn't want to do so otherwise. He might have to pull his Pathfinders back. He might have to move his broadside. He might even have to deep strike his crisis in his home zone for crying out loud if needs be, just to make sure he gets the objective. In tactical objective games, this is doubly important, of course, because if you can get an objective secured unit anywhere near an objective, then it's pretty much impossible to shift them off without an objective secured of your own or masses of firepower / assault power, and Tau have no assault power. So that's pretty much the game. Kill points, you may lose more than you win. Objectives you can win, particularly if there's a lot of objectives, you can get board control. That's what you've got to do. Take out their board control and nonsense units and get it for yourself, and then focus on dealing with his army. You've got board control, the Tau really can't handle it. They haven't got that many units to fire at you. Then there's the Riptide. I know this needs a section all to itself. The Riptide Battlesuit is an absolute pain. It's toughness 6, it's got a 2+ save, it's got a 5+ involvement, you can give it a 4+, you can give it feel no pain, you can give it 2 drones with missile pods and a 3-up involve. It can be an absolute tank. And with the heavy burst cannon and the ion accelerator as well as its weapons, it can absolutely wreck your face. A heavy burst cannon, that's, if you overcharge it, it's like 12 shots rending. Ow! 12 shots rending on strength 6, AP4. I mean, if you can buff it with marker lights, then that will kill just about any tank it hits that's short of a Land Raider or Lehman Russ. It will kill just about anything. If it's armor 12, it will get some pens, it'll get some glances, it'll do really well and just wreck everything. The ion accelerator, it's a pie plate, it's AP3, maybe even AP2. Drop it on your face. Oh dear. So I think silencing the Riptide has to be not a priority, but it needs to be done, otherwise it can cause nonsense. It can only shoot one thing at a time, and it can only be in one place at a time, although it can jetpack in the assault phase, and it can jetpack 4d6. but it can only be in one place and just kill one thing a turn. So use that to your advantage. Feed it units if you have to. If you've got a cheap chaff army, feed it gaunts, feed it guardsmen. Make it jump away from where it wants to be in order to not get assaulted or to burn its firepower on that unit so it doesn't get assaulted and locked down for the rest of the game. Fearless units, brilliant. If you've got Synapse, excellent. Or Psychic Powers, or Commissar. A Lord Commissar, or just even a Commissar in a blob will lock a Riptide down for a whole game. Unquestionably. Seriously, a squad of Gaunts with Synapse around will lock a Riptide down indefinitely. Absolutely. So make sure you can lock it down. And if you can't lock it down in melee because your army isn't designed to do that, or you just don't have the way of getting fearless units or high leadership units to deal with it, treat it like a monstrous creature in any other circumstance. It's just a 6 wound, toughness 6, 2+ save monstrous creature with a big gun and an invuln, which is annoying. Kill the drones because more missile pods, you really don't want more missile pods. And that's about it, really. So, in summary, don't tailor your list, but think about what they struggle with. They struggle with board control without their fast units. They struggle with getting a load of shooting out, so masses of units are good. And they struggle with really heavy armor if you've got it. Monstrous creatures, not so much. When deploying, chaff units with short range to the fore. Bolt guns to the fore. Las guns to the fore. Tanks, if they're heavy, in the face. Otherwise behind the units. Assault units, hidden behind or in transports. Shooting units towards the back, preferably with a cover save or a building to get good LOS. Chaff units you don't want to waste, such as scouts, guardians, possibly small squads of Carbolites, Necron warriors, home base. That's where they belong. Sit on your objective, and if you've got a lot of them, spread them out and stop him deep striking, because Crisis Suit's deep striking can cause mayhem. Trust me, I know. And then in the game, take first turn if you can, and play for board presence. Take over the board, and you'll win. Tau just don't have enough shooting to deal with it. I know that sounds weird, but they don't. So, that's all for this video. I hope you found it useful, and, well, that's all. Thank you for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it. My name is Michael, and I will see you all again.